Kids tagged me in her my BookTube Story Tag, so today, guess what we're gonna do?
You are now watching Elizziebooks.
So in about 2008, I actually started watching YouTube like a lot more heavily, I guess, because before then it was just cats and snipers, and that was about it for me. And I didn't really watch the snipers, I was more about the cats and boxes. But then Julia Nunes was on the front page and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing that people do on the internet. And so I started watching her, and I started watching What the Buck and Philip DeFranco and Swift Karate Chop, if you remember him, and a great deal of other people, and it just kind of like spiraled from there to like 5 Awesome Girls and Vlogbrothers and more and more and more. I would say that 5 Awesome Girls is the main reason why I started vlogging. They made it seem like a lot of fun, and everybody else did too, but mainly because of the way that they did it and their challenges and things like that, and I think that's why I really thought that vlogging was a cool thing to do. There's a video in which Christina talks about her 50 book challenge, and it's like December and she's like rushing through all these books and she gets some children's books, and so that kind of got me into reading more because I was like, hey, let's do a challenge and see how many books I can read, and I set my goal to 30 and I think I read about 32. Around the end of that challenge, it was late 2009 I would say, maybe about November, a little bit earlier than that I would say. I was like, I want to do something on YouTube and I want it to be a little bit more focused. I want to have a thing, and I just didn't know what to do, and then I was like, hey, I have all these books that I've read that I haven't reviewed yet. So guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna talk about books. I actually had 2 channels before that. There was the channel that I started watching all these people on, and then I had like a general vlogging channel that is still around. The first channel is not around, I deleted that, but the second channel is still around. It's just kind of like stuff from trips and things like that, and just kind of footage, that stuff. But I started doing Elizziebooks at about the same time I started doing a collab channel, and let's just not talk about what that collab channel was, but other than the fact that it was very helpful to the way I started vlogging and how I kind of got into the groove of how I like to vlog. The early days of a collab channel and the early days of my own vlogging is just very awkward to watch. We'll just stop there. The question I'm trying to answer is why I started, and it was basically because I was going, I've got all these books that I've read, what do I do with them? And I checked on YouTube to make sure I wasn't stepping on anybody's toes. I know Danny mentioned YA Fiction Freaks, and they were some of the first people that I subscribed to that were bookish people, but other than that, there wasn't anybody else, and I was like, okay, I can do this thing without it being, you know, getting into anybody else's business or anything like that. That doesn't make any sense, but, you know, like, you don't want to be stepping on people's toes. I was like, I'm not gonna start any drama, I don't want to, no. And so started this channel and started talking about books. It did have another name, but I quickly did not go with that name. I quickly went with this name instead because of the fact that my friend Tara calls me Elizabeth, and that's where my Twitter name comes from, and I took the Beth out and put in books because books are awesome. So we answered the question why I started, and basically get into why I stayed, which is kind of more like why I continue to do this thing after all these years, and I'm getting into almost my 3rd anniversary. That'll be in November, and I stay because of the wonderful community that has surrounded all of this. I am in no way saying that I started this community or saying that I started anything. I am just saying that I love this community and that I am grateful for all these people who also love books just as much as I do, if not more. To answer this question with a specific example, I want to use the BookTube news example, and the reason why I started that was to kind of like bring people kind of more together. I know lately it's been kind of all over the place, and I'm doing this video in place of that this week, but for the most part I started it, or that is the reason why I started it. I was like, I want one place where we can all see what's going on in the community, and right now this tag is what's going on in the community. I think that this is a wonderful tag, and when Bunny Cates came up to me and we talked on G+, and we were like, hey, is this a good idea? Or she told me, is this a good idea? Asked me if it was a good idea, and I was like, yes, this is a great idea because it kind of reminds me of why I started and why I continue to do so. I tag every one of you because that's the purpose of this tag, is to get you to tell your story, because that's a lot of fun. We don't just talk about other people's stories, we talk about our stories and kind of wrap them up into our videos. And so I would greatly appreciate it if some of you did this, because I think that it's a lot of fun to kind of look back and think about how and why you started BookTube. I think that covers everything and then some, so I hope you all have a great day and keep reading.